Today is the 28th of September 2021. I shouldn't even be doing this right now because David Knight is live. And God bless David Knight for all of the hard work that he does, and most of all for his very sound reasoning and spiritual base that he holds dear. Anyway, if you're not listening to David this morning, you're making a big mistake. However, I just had to come on because I just saw a tweet from one of our more illustrious and well known congressional representatives, the great man from Ohio who talks a lot and never does anything. Used to be Trey Gowdy, but this guy was a close second. Jim Jordan. Hello, Roosevelt. Sorry I didn't notify you. I just got pissed off here. DJ Adams, that's fine. You're LDS. I'm glad you are. And I hope you know that your leaders are leading you down to the road to hell, telling you to go get this GMI. But that's all I'll say. That should tell you everything you need to know about them. But that's not what I'm here for today. The illustrious and well-known, famous Jim Jordan came out this morning on a tweet that said, and it's in the description box below. For those of you who have Twitter, you can go look at it and see for yourself. This idiot, this grandstander, this pretender of conservatism and constitutionalism and individual rights, came out this morning and said, as you can see in the description box, everyone is hiring, get a job. Everyone is hiring, right, Jim Jordan? You're not saying anything about the nurses and doctors getting fired by the thousands around the country for refusing to take the GMI that apparently you're in favor of. You're trying to dictate to people to go out and get a job where they're going to be required to get this thing. Jim Jordan, you're no leader. You're part of the problem. You are an evil pretender of good. Instead of saying everyone is hiring, go get a job, you should be saying, I'm going to go on warfare against the establishment, against all this injustice that's going on, creating these artificial shortages and these artificial employment openings, bringing in unqualified people to replace those who you called heroes for the last 18 to 20 months. Because they know better than to get this thing. And now you're saying everyone's hiring, go get a job. You hypocrite. I hope you all send this video to him. Now, I have no illusions of grandeur that anything that we say is going to change the course of any of this. We're going to have to stand up and resist with everything we got. How you got, Miss Cat? I put out a thing yesterday with the vets starting to stand up. If you haven't seen it, go see it. But we're going to have a very difficult time. My daughter, that is the nurse that is getting removed from her job for not going along with this idiocy, called me up last night and she says, you know, Dad, I've had this epiphany. You talk a lot about deliverance and a place of refuge. And she says, you know, I think the place of refuge is just being associated with like-minded people. And she's very correct. I'm going to talk about Schiller in just a minute. She's very, very correct in that. Wherever two or more are gathered together, there will I be also, is what the scripture says. So there's a lot of truth to that. Deliverance and refuge is in being with like-minded people. And she's very right about that. But I'm hoping also that there will be an actual physical place for us to gather to, which will be difficult in and of itself. But I hope that happens. But I'm not sure how God's going to handle this. I'm just keeping my options open. Yes, they jailed Lieutenant Colonel Scheller. Apparently what he did was violate a gag order from the judge, which the judge should never have issued in the first place. It was a trap. He still has his First Amendment rights, even if he is a military officer. But yeah, that's wrong, and I mentioned it in my video, I think, yesterday, that they jailed. If not there, it was on Twitter. And I said, you know, the hypocrisy of the system just continues to show itself. They're going after him for calling out the generals, the incompetent and I think it was very good that he said they weren't just incompetent, right? They need to be held to account. They need to be held accountable. That's what he said, right? And then he was told not to talk about anything on social media. So now they're trying to shut him up, like they do everybody that speaks the truth. And yet, nobody's holding SecDef Austin, General Marky Milley, who all went, who are all doing illegal, immoral, and unconstitutional things. And Mark Milley even went against his commander in chief, broke the chain of command. Nothing's happening to him. And then I named all these other generals on Twitter, which I'm going to mention now. Not all of them, that'd be impossible, because there are probably hundreds of these traitors and criminals and communists in our government. But I'm going to name a few of them, okay, that should be actually indicted and thrown in the brig, not Lieutenant Colonel Scheller. And who are they? Well, I already mentioned Milley. Let's talk about Admiral McCraven. Let's talk about General McMaster. Let's talk about General Kelly, General Mattis, General McChrystal, General Petraeus, and I could go on, but I don't want to take up your time. And yet none of those will be held to account. None of those will be brought up on charges of speaking out against their commander-in-chief. Ladies and gentlemen, our republic is gone. It's broken. Any faith you have in this at this point in time is ill-placed. They trash the Bill of Rights with impunity. Yeah, I believe Flynn is an agent too. I could have mentioned him, but he's been playing a really silly game. But I don't trust Flynn at all. Anybody that follows me knows that. Trump refused to call out the wickedness and evil that he's promulgated with his OWS in his little speech the other night, and I talked about that already. But all these things are happening, and the system, the military system, comes down on Lieutenant Colonel Scheller. They're cowards and they're traitors in the military. And they're turning it into a CRT unit that will do anything they're told regardless of what they took an oath for. As a matter of fact, I'd be real surprised if they even continue requiring the oath for military service or for being police or government officials. They'll probably just do away with it altogether. Ms. Cat, religious exemptions aren't working, and they're not going to work. They're just going to ignore it completely. I'm not saying don't do it, but my daughter already tried it. Didn't work. She went to her doctor, tried to get a medical exemption, which she's certainly qualified for, and she was refused that as well. None of this is going to work. Thereafter, just like David and I talked about this morning, the meeting that the billionaires had back in 2013, where they were concerned about, overpopulation, that they were going to come up with a system to get rid of millions and billions of people and take control and become the world government. Wait a second, Roosevelt, you're saying the lawsuits, that depends on where you are. It's not going to work as well. They're going to shut that off eventually, Roosevelt. It's working now. I'm not saying not to do it. I'm not saying not to go with it. Okay? But they're going to turn that faucet off. Okay, that's going to get cut off. Okay? It'll work for a while, but when the system goes totally rogue and totally anti liberty, they're going to even ignore those, and they'll probably reverse those decisions on the religious exemptions. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying don't bet that that's going to keep you safe for the rest of your life, because it's not. They're coming after everybody. This will be a total division in the society, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. The wheat from the tares will be bundled together. Yeah, that's how the scripture actually goes. It doesn't say that the wheat will be gathered out of the tares. It says the tares will be cut down, gathered in bundles, and thrown into the fire. That's how it works. And all these people that are going along with this, whether ignorantly or or complicity are all being bundled together, and they're all going to die at one time or very close to each other when this entire thing turns around. Be it natural causes because of what's in the GMIs or whatever the heck they're doing here. So at any rate, that's all I got for you. I want you to go back and listen to David Knight. Uh, yes, fight this with all you can. Like my daughter tried the religious exemption, she tried the medical exemption, and even though she's qualified on both counts, they denied her on both counts. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't try, and some places will honor it, others won't. And it'll get to the point where the majority of them will not, because that is the satanic system that is taking over the world at this point in time. Yeah, go see the Dave Knight Show. And I'm going to let you go. Pray for Lieutenant Colonel Scheller. He had the courage to stand up. And all of those other real traitors and violators of the UCMJ are walking around free and clear because they're part of the big boys club. All right. Yeah, fight back as much as you can. Thank you for bringing it up, Roosevelt. Fight back as much as you can. Just be aware that they're going to shut off any alternative, any defense at all. They're going to shut these things down. Religious exemptions, medical exemptions. By and large, that's causing a problem. Oh, look at the thousands of nurses and doctors that are being released today from their work in New York. Jim Jordan said nothing about that. Oh, yeah, everybody's hiring because you're allowing them all to get fired for their conscience sake, Jim Jordan. You know, I'm getting so I hate that guy. He's a big phony. Actually, I think I hate all of them, and I don't mind saying that. I hate every one of them. Rand Paul's even a disappointment. Yeah, that won't work now, Whitaker. You're saying file for reduced hours. Well, that's not going to work now because they're going to terminate her. That's what's going to happen. And there's no recourse if you refuse the vaccine. And where she lives, they're fully on board with it. The government's there where she lives. All right, that's all I got out here.